Welcome to Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse, a podcast exploring cult classics, subculture, and geek media. I'm Nick.
And I'm Dave.
And we will be your tour guides for this deep dive of Quentin Tarantino's 1994 Neo-Noir Hyperlink Crime Comedy, Pulp Fiction.
I call it the postmodern crime drama.
It's that too. It is that. That actually, they got list this. So this is the distinction between comedy and drama is very sticky on this movie because Tarantino believes this ended up costing them a lot of awards, that they were listed in the drama category and not in the comedy category.
Oh, well, I didn't think it was very funny.
That's an outrageous hot take. This is a hilarious movie.
It's somewhat funny, but it's more dramatic than funny in my opinion.
Interesting.
And the reason I chose postmodern,
it's definitely postmodern.
I felt the need to include that because it's extremely subversive. They're using mainstream conventions in order to like kind of test your suspension of disbelief and whatnot. So this movie really has a lot of accolades. It had 7 Academy Award nominations and 2 wins: Best Screenplay and Best Supporting Actor for Sam Jackson. So this movie is obviously highly celebrated. It might be his most famous movie.
It's easily Tarantino's most famous movie. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's his best movie, but it is the one you think of. When you think of Tarantino, you think of this. It's the one, when Lisa and I got our very first apartment, I had a big fucking poster of Jules and Vincent pointing their guns.
Yeah, I remember that.
Behind the couch. And it was as wide as a couch. It was a monster. And a lot of young people had that poster in their house.
Yeah, this movie was extremely big in the mid to late 90s. So this is definitely one of those, we're not deep diving something that is esoteric and niche. This is very mainstream.
Yeah, but it's culty. Like everything that Tarantino does is culty. He's just
but everyone's
successful.
heard of it.
But everyone's heard of it. Yeah, it's like Metallica.
Sure.
It's like...
At one point, it was culty. It's not now.
Yeah. Reservoir Dogs was culty. Yeah. This one went big.
So that was his Kill 'Em All.
Oh, I've had, you beat me to it. I've had that on deck all week long to call Reservoir Dogs his Kill 'Em All.
It's pretty true. I like that.
So when I was in high school, I took a lot of art classes, all through high school. And I was, there was always older kids that were hipper to shit than I was.
Oh yeah, I had those friends too.
And I was always chasing those guys that knew more about movies, knew more about music. I was always wanting to keep up in those conversations, but I didn't have older brothers. I didn't have the things required. And I remember this so clear. One of the sort of main art kids I admired, he says casually, he's like, I'm going to see Pulp Fiction tonight, Quentin Tarantino written and directed. And I was like, oh, cool. With the cool commercial with the guitar sound in it. I was I had no friend, I didn't know who Quentin Tarantino was. I didn't
Oh man, I hadn't watched Reservoir Dogs.
I hadn't,
and
that's when he dropped, because he saw my befuddled face when he said Quentin Tarantino written directed, and I was like, oh yeah, nice.
I know the thing.
And he goes, he wrote and directed Reservoir Dogs, and I'm like, cool. And it's and I mean, just to get so
it's the record scratches and stops. Everyone looks at you in the entire room.
I think right at that time, the memories are pouring back in. He was drawing this beautiful graphite portrait of De Niro from Taxi Driver. That was the project he was working on.
Yeah.
And I was drawing elves and dragons and some hardcore geek shit. And we were in different planes. I wanted to be in his cinephile, upper echelon nerd plane. But I was still in my comics and D&D, this lower tier of lowbrow nerd.
Oh man, I don't think that's lowbrow nerd.
No,
anymore.
we've elevated it.
I think, yeah, this podcast elevated it.
We gave it the meta bump. I think.
But yeah,
You're welcome, Wizards of the Coast. I regret the power I gave you.
And Marvel, we made
monsters of you.
Yeah, we made comics cool and made you popular again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this movie, it was made for about $8.5 million, and it made $214 million. So just the return on investment is insane.
Yeah,
it's just this one is out of the ballpark.
It's just a monster. It reminds me. I feel like this dropped a bomb on culture. The only thing we've probably covered similarly is The Crow. Like, at least in my circles, this movie was a big game changer.
The Burton Batman movie dominated pop culture.
Yeah, and those waves are still rolling.
Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, I referenced The Flash
with Michael Keaton.
Yeah. So yeah, there are certain movies that come out, and when they do, they rule the world for a little while, and this is one of them.
Yeah, there'd be no Guy Ritchie without Tarantino.
Yeah, probably not.
There's so many people, and some of them
all of those Jason Statham movies.
Yeah, like everyone with anything with bantery criminals.
Yeah.
Owes it to this.
For sure. I like the genre. It's good.
Oh, definitely.
Just shoot 'em up with clever dialogue.
Mm-hmm. I love all that.
Yeah, so are you ready to roll for initiative?
We might as well.
18.
11, you go first.
First good roll in a while. All right, so I wanted to hit some gaming news because I never do that.
Oh, never.
No, actually, this is video gaming news because I don't actually normally do that.
Okay.
This one is about the brand new Star Wars game. It's called Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It was just out just the other day, and it was highly anticipated and very well reviewed, all the advanced copies for the reviewers. And it just came out, and when it dropped, people who had pre-ordered and got the pre-download so that they could play on day one, they were met with an update patch, which is not uncommon on day one. But the update patch was 128 gigabytes on day one. Oof. And the game basically, it's like, this is like a cyberpunk level of launch day botch.
That hurts.
For a Star Wars game. So this is pretty insane.
Is this the third or second game in the series?
This is the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order.
Okay.
Which I have not played, but I want to play. Supposedly, it actually the best platform to play it on, with the fewest bugs, is PlayStation 5. Woohoo. The worst platform is PC.
Okay. Wow, that's weird.
That is weird because I guess it was written for PlayStation and just ported everywhere else.
Okay.
So that just makes sense. But it seems strange to me, and how long will people tolerate this crap where you pre-order these games and you're met with these gigantic day one patches and just completely botched releases?
It happens. It seems like for these sort of primo high tier games, it seems like it happens every time now.
It's not every time though. It's just the ones that it doesn't happen to, you just don't hear about the game at all. It just doesn't. I mean, not to invoke the Rowling, but the Harry Potter game launched smoothly.
Yeah, except for the people boycotting it and stuff.
Sure,
but it played well.
It played well, and it sold like a bazillion copies.
Okay.
It made like a crap load of money. And I mean, I'm not supporting the game. I'm just saying it launched flawlessly. And a lot of other games do. A lot of big games launch flawlessly. Okay. This is just an example of one that you think, because it has Star Wars name on it, which means it has Disney stank on it, it needs to launch smoothly.
Yeah, because they should have bottomless resources to make it work.
Yeah, it's Star Wars. It should be unlimited. It should always work. Throw more money at it. Make more servers, or rent more server space just for the first month or whatever. Do whatever you have to do.
Well, that's too bad. I was looking forward to this game, but by the time I get around to it, I'm just now playing the Avengers game. You know, like 2 or 3 years late.
I find if you wait a year, games are so patched up and good.
Oh yeah, I had a great time playing Cyberpunk because I waited for all of the shitstorm to settle down and came in and played a smooth, debugged game.
Exactly. It's perfect. They just launched them too soon is what they do.
Yeah.
Studio people.
That's the same thing with movies. That's that whole picking a release date and holding yourself to it. Mm-hmm. That's just cutting your own throat.
Yeah, good thing we never do that.
It's a little less high risk for us.
Yeah, this isn't our livelihood.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you got?
All right, first up, this is from CNN. Michelle Yeoh, Academy Award-winning actress Michelle Yeoh, is getting a Star Trek movie for Paramount Plus called Star Trek Section 31, and she's reprising her role as Emperor Philippa Giorgio. Is that? I'm not up to date on all of the.
That's from Discovery, right?
Yeah, it's from Discovery, and the Emperor character was from, I guess, the Mirror universe.
Yeah, like the alternate universe.
Yeah, because she had a character that's in the regular universe as well. I'm not totally up to date on all the Star Trek stuff, but I'm a huge fan of Michelle Yeoh, and so this got my interest and got me kind of stoked.
Yeah, I'm a Trekkie, but I'm not like a super Trekkie. I haven't finished Discovery. I know I should. I have not. I haven't finished everything.
Are you current on Picard?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I just didn't love Discovery, and I hate coming out with that because it gets so much like neckbeard man baby hate on the internet. I don't want to join my voice to theirs, so I simply don't.
Yeah.
But it didn't scratch the itch for me. The characters didn't do it for me. So it's not that I dislike it. It's just that I didn't feel compelled to hit play again.
Right. This is one of those ones where sometimes splitting a season doesn't pay off for you.
Yeah.
So I watched the first half of season 1 and I liked it and I would have continued with it.
Yeah.
And then there was a break in between the first half and the second half when the Mirror Universe story arc started.
Yeah.
And by the time the second half of the season dropped, I was on to other things and I've just have never gone back. Because I didn't like it. I liked it enough I would have finished the season, but I didn't like it enough to take a break and come back.
That makes sense.
Season 1 of Picard, I loved.
Yeah.
I didn't like any of the trailers I saw for season 2. And so I've not been back to that. I want to watch season 3, but
I liked season 2, so I
will. Oh, did you?
Yeah, and so I will watch season 3.
So, but you haven't yet.
No, not yet.
Okay. Sell me on season 2 of Picard. Let's do a little sidebar on that.
You just get more. You get more Jean-Luc. You get more side characters. You revisit some of the characters from the past. You just. I feel like it's not really a Star Trek show, and it continues that vibe of being off the rails. It's not in the Federation. It's a non-Federation Star Wars universe show,
right?
And the first show we ever had that was sort of like that was Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
And Deep Space Nine is the best Trek series.
Everyone says that.
Ever.
It
is the best Trek series. And so Picard has shades of that because it's not rigidly bound to Federation stuff.
I just don't I'm not moved by this whole time travel alternate fascist universe story they did.
Yeah, I hate time travel in almost everything, so I mostly hand wave a lot of it in my mind and don't think about it and just kind of enjoy the parts I enjoy.
Could I skip 2 and just jump right into 3? Do you think that would work?
I don't think you should.
Damn it. All right.
Yeah, I don't think you should.
I know. You're not... Other people have... You were my second opinion.
Good to know.
All right. What's your next item?
All right. So I just have 2 that I'm going to squeeze into one. Just 2 shows that I liked that I watched the first 2 seasons of. They're getting 3rd seasons that are coming out. One of them everybody knows about, so I'll start with that. I'll do that one second. Okay. The first one is the lesser-known series called Warrior on HBO Max.
Oh, I love Warrior.
Finally getting a 3rd season. We get this from the mind of Bruce Lee,
Mm-hmm.
and of course expanded on by writers. But it's so good, and it's finally getting a third season, and it comes out June 29th.
Oh, that's soon.
Yeah, very soon. So divers, if you haven't gone on HBO Max and watched Warrior season 1, it's like a Wild West kung fu drama. It's super good if you like Deadwood and you like the whole topic of like Chinese immigration and early American westward expansion, all that, that railroad era stuff. Check this out. It's all about like the organized crime trying to find their way in California. Really good, and I can't wait for season 3 of Warrior.
This is the wait between, because it's they got greenlit when they moved from where they were on Stars or
Something
Cinemax.
else, yeah.
They were on an HBO subsidiary, but they weren't on mainstream HBO. And then that sub network folded, and then COVID happened, and so the wait between season 2 and season 3 has been long, like 2-3 years.
Yeah, we talked about Warrior early in this podcast.
Yeah.
And then the other show that everyone's heard about coming out is Witcher season 3. It's dropping its episodes in 2 bunches, just like you said was a bad idea.
But they're close.
It's June 29th and July 27th, so roughly 4 weeks. You're gonna get about 5 episodes or you're gonna first have 5 episodes in the first drop, and you're gonna get 3 episodes on the second drop.
Yeah, I think they've watched, because they study all our metrics. They've watched people like me, like how many.
They want to get you for 2 months of subscription.
Yeah, they're like, how far can we put them apart that people will not forget about this?
Oh yeah,
and I think
if they drop them on June 20, if they drop them at the end of July, you're paying for August too.
Yeah,
because you'll forget. You won't watch them all before the beginning of August.
Diabolical.
Yeah, so there's been tons of images and plot summaries and interviews with cast members, et cetera, et cetera. If you're interested in that, there's just a ton of content around that you can look around. I'm gonna watch this for sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to watch season 4 because I'm a Cavill stan, and the idea that they got rid of Cavill from the show that he championed, it just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah,
he's Geralt for me, just like he's the Man of Steel for me.
Yeah, I'm no hater of Liam Hemsworth.
No, he's cool.
I think he's a good dude. I don't think he's had a really great breakout part yet. But dude, those are hard boots to step into.
Well, and being somebody else's replacement isn't how you break out. That's lame.
That's a poison pill.
Yeah.
I would have a talk with my agent about it.
You know who they should have got for this? Nick Cage. I just think he would do an amazing job. It would be completely different.
Yeah.
And I would watch it. I'd be there for the spectacle.
Yeah, because then he's going to do something. He's not going to do an impression. He's going to do something different.
He's going to do something he thinks is cool.
Yeah, which will be interesting. If nothing else, it may not be good, but it will always be interesting.
Yeah, Nick Cage is weird, and he's always worth watching.
Totally.
All right, that's me. What's your second piece?
My number 2 is Transformers 1. So this came out of Cinecon.
Is this the Rise of the Beast thing?
No, this is it's an animated prequel that is set on Cybertron and is it's a trilogy of films is what they're talking about that have to do with Optimus Prime and Megatron and what causes their philosophical break from each other and what causes the war between the Autobots and the Decepticons.
Gotcha.
It's back deep into the Transformers lore. It's got a very star-studded cast with Chris Hemsworth playing Optimus Prime, and Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron, Scarlett Johansson as Alita, Keegan-Michael Key as Bumblebee, John Hamm as Sentinel Prime, and Lawrence Fishburne as Alpha Trion. And, they sort of fumbled the ball a little bit in the announcement when they said it was going to be the first animated Transformers movie.
Oh my God. The first Transformer movie was animated.
Yes. And so now, like every article you see, it has the little tag that says updated on it, and now it says the first animated movie in 30 years, as opposed to the first animated movie. But
wow.
I feel like there's been a lot of effort put into writing the Transformers ship, and I'm there for good Transformers content.
Sure.
So I'm very interested in this. I'm more interested in this than I am in Rise of the Beasts, which I'm dubious of.
Well, if you had brought Rise of the Beasts to the table, there would have been some shunning and scoffing because, come on, dude. We don't sink so low as to be Transformer enthusiasts here. That is lowbrow nerdery. Like how that taxi driver guy or whatever was looking down on your
looking at my elf
dragon picture. I look down on Transformers from my high horse of Dungeons and Dragons playing.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I put that Dungeons and Dragons movie up against all of the Transformers.
Oh, yeah.
Ones. Even Bumblebee, which people like.
Honor Among Thieves is better than every Transformer movie.
I agree. 100%. I actually did watch Bumblebee finally, and it's fine. It's charming. It's a lot more watchable than the Michael Bay ones, but it's like Harry and the Hendersons. It's basically Harry and the Hendersons with a big robot instead of a Bigfoot.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like an 80s kids movie. And I was like, okay, you made a good 80s kids movie. Cool.
All right. There you go.
That's my glowing review of Bumblebee from 3-4 years ago.
Awesome. All right, so let's get into our podcast fuel. What do we have here?
All right, we have got the incredible Pulp Blood Orange Extra Pale Ale from Boneyard Beer.
My favorite brewery.
Yeah, I knew I was coming over to a Boneyard house, so I brought the whole 6-pack and left the extras for you.
Me and Carrie love this brewery.
This is a citrus forward extra pale. Will slap you in the taste buds with the flavors of Northwest hops and blood orange. Incredible Pulp is 6% ABV and 35 IBUs. Boneyard still keeping it real and listing the IBUs.
Yeah, did they list specific gravity? Because that's keeping it real.
That's real. We need to know how much sugar did it have when you started the brew, and what does it have in it now?
Yeah, that's old school.
Yeah. This is a classic. I enjoy Boneyard. I'm not as big of an enthusiast as you guys, but I am an enthusiast for this brewery out of Bend, Oregon. And I already killed one can of this, if I'm being honest, while we were just hashing things out before the pod. So I'm on my second.
Yeah, I would have already, but my allergies are killing me, and so if I drink a bunch of beer while I'm having an allergy moment, it doesn't go
good. Yeah.
So
pace yourself.
Yeah, I'm just nursing it. But this is a good one. This is a winner when I saw the Boneyard logo. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back with our deep dive of Pulp Fiction.
Welcome back, divers. Let's dive into Pulp Fiction, 1994, directed by Quentin Tarantino. The stories of two gangsters retrieving a mysterious briefcase, an over-the-hill boxer who kills his opponent in a fight he was paid to throw, and a heroin-addicted henchman tasked with taking the boss's wife out for a night on the town intersect and weave around each other in interesting and unexpected ways.
Yes, this movie really is 3 stories with almost a 0.5 story at the end with
Honey Bunny,
the diner rob, Pumpkin and Honey Bunny, who are kind of the bookends, beginning and end.
They're technically part of the Vincent and Jules story. Yeah, that's how Tarantino keeps it down. He considers it three stories. Yeah,
it's not exactly clear in the very beginning when it's just Honey Bunny and Pumpkin talking in a diner, but so this movie is just like Reservoir Dogs in that it's nonlinear storytelling that has, and we're just jumping right into the storytelling section. Nonlinear storytelling, this is what he loves.
Tarantino always does nonlinear. The only times a Tarantino script, like say True Romance, Tony Scott recut the script so that the story was told linearly. But the way that Tarantino wrote the screenplay for True Romance, it was nonlinear as well. So he always does that. That's his preferred way of storytelling. And then the term I learned in researching this movie was hyperlink. So it's not an anthology film, which would, if it was just 3 stories, it would be an anthology. But it's a hyperlink film because the 3 stories are interconnected with each other.
One another.
Yeah. So they're not entirely distinct, even though they're separate.
They kind of cross through like Marcellus Wallace, basically.
Yeah, he is the through piece for everything, I suppose. Yeah.
And he's the mob boss. If you haven't seen Pulp Fiction, Divers, you probably should. It's a treat.
Pause this.
It's
on HBO Max, I think. Yeah.
I think I saw it on Amazon Prime, but it's for no charge.
Oh, Netflix. I watched it on Netflix.
Yeah, it was.
So okay. Yeah, it's
around.
On everything.
Yeah, it's available. You can find it. So yeah, I think that's got to be the first topic in the storytelling section is the nonlinear storytelling, how it's out of chronological order. So sometimes like someone will die, and then you'll get scenes with them, like when Travolta's character dies, and then you get more scenes with them after the fact.
And that's such a brilliant have a cake and eat it too sort of thing, because the Gold Watch story is timeline wise the final story of the 3, but they place it in the middle of the film, and so we see Vincent die in that storyline, but then Vincent still gets a happy ending with Jules. Like we still get them surviving the diner robbery. So like you both get to kill your principal lead of the film in the middle of the movie and shock the audience and give them a feel-good ending at the end.
Because it's only a false ending.
Yeah,
really.
Like brilliant. It's just, I remember watching this the first time just being totally shocked when Travolta gets killed.
Oh, yeah.
And then shocked again when he comes back later.
Yeah, it took me a minute when I first watched this to understand, oh, this is out of order.
Yeah.
This is fragmented. And one of the things I wanted to call out with this nonlinear storytelling is, and a lot of this stuff is similar to Reservoir Dogs. It'd be hard to not be similar. I love how Tarantino creates little vignettes that are these little micro scenes that really stand alone on their own. They're little set pieces that are amazing little scenes that kind of happen and they blossom on their own, and then they end, and then it goes somewhere else. And so you really have these excellent performances. It kind of reminds me of theater in a way.
He writes movies you can see easily adapted to plays. Or at least the vignettes in them, like you said. Tarantino and Roger Avary, they won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. And that's one of those, wow, they got it right this time. Like, you know how a lot of times
they actually chose the right one.
Yes. A lot of times you watch the Oscars and you look at the movies that are in contention and the right one is so clear, and they go with the crowd favorite, sort of, or not even the crowd favorite, but the industry favorite.
Yeah, the industry favorite, for
and
sure.
You're like...
The Grammys are the same way.
Yeah, and because of just the nature of who's in the Academy, it makes this happen. And so when they won the Best Screenplay, this really was the best screenplay that year.
It's great.
Yeah. And... What's next up?
I got dialogue as my next point in storytelling. Sure. This movie is notable for having, I read a quote somewhere that said this had some of the most memorable dialogue in film history. And under that bullet point, I just started jotting things down, and I found that there was just too much. I couldn't keep jotting things down. Like things that we quoted constantly, like, English, motherfucker.
Do you speak it?
And it's like, say what one more time?
What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English and what? Yeah. No, every scene with Jules and Vincent, I know front to back. I could monologue all of those scenes by myself, do both characters. I memorized these, and I haven't watched this movie in I don't know how long. They live inside of me. Like, nice. I was like, as soon as I'm watching it again, I'm talking about the Royale with cheese. Like I'm speaking along with the movie the whole time.
Yeah, this thing brought up it brought up classic memories, like all of these things that they're saying. And there are just some things that I didn't remember because it was so long ago that I last watched this movie.
Yeah.
And they were just like, oh man, this is a really good vocal, or this is a really good dialogue. This is really well written and delivered. Like the performance of this well written dialogue is so expert.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to call out Uma Thurman, like when she's playing Mia Wallace, when she's going out with Vince, and she's talking about just being able to sit in silence about how it's not weird, and that's how you know you found somebody special. And I just sort of like internalized that as a young man.
Yeah.
Like to me, that was like, yeah, that's absolutely true. And it's like, it kind of is though.
Many things in this movie, I had forgotten their providence, right? Like I had forgotten where they came from. Like, like that, like the awkward silence that entered our lexicon because of this movie. And Marcellus Wallace says that thing about the guys at the pawn shop, how he's going to have someone come get medieval on their ass. That's just something people say.
And like I use the word pipe swinging as like an adjective to describe someone who you might also call them hard boiled or whatever. But it's Marcellus Wallace's word. He calls him the pipe swinging. I'm not going to use his word.
So I don't want to ruin that for you. He says pipe hitting,
and
does he means the crack pipe.
Oh, does he? Wow.
Yeah, like
pipe hitting. So I was saying it wrong the whole time, but that's okay.
But still,
because I still like it.
Yeah,
but that scene is so dark. Ooh. It's just utter darkness with the hillbillies and the gimp in that they get out of the chest. Oh my god!
So that guy, the gimp, sidebar. He does like the convention circuit, like how people go and do autographs. And I just don't know how I could do. Like, I don't know how I could sit under the banner of the.
I mean,
gimp.
But he's wearing the mask, right? So
I know
he's anonymous.
I know, but like, can you imagine signing autographs as like, and that's your claim to fame is that you're the gimp in Pulp Fiction?
But here's the real question: if you didn't have to work, and all you did was the con circuit,
and just sign 8x10s of the gimp mask
roughly twice a month, and you got to basically see the country or world by traveling around, would you do it to not have to do the grind of a job? I think I would.
I don't know. I think it would get to. I would think.
And I'm sure he gets royalty checks for Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
He's probably doing all right.
Yeah. No, I think it would get to. I think it would seem cush at the start. And then, like, I don't know, about the millionth time some creep comes up to you with their sweaty mask to have you sign it or something like that, you're going to be like, I've made some mistakes in my life. Like, you're not going to want to do that forever.
Maybe. The thing is that maybe if you have ambition, but I know people who would kill for that.
Oh, just to be able to milk some small part, maybe.
So the last thing I have on my topic here is characters. I just wanted to call it out for the writing. I feel like all of these characters are really well written and really well developed.
Yeah.
They aren't actually very likable, most of them. I find pretty much just Samuel L. Jackson's character to be likable.
Really? Only him?
Yeah. I feel a kinship with Bruce Willis's character a little bit.
Okay.
But I don't really like the rest of them very much.
You don't like Vincent Vega and Mia Wallace?
I think he's douchey, and I think she's vapid.
Ooh, harsh. Okay.
But I just feel like they're well written, and I not that I actively dislike them. I think that's the performance. That's what they were how they're written, and that's. They weren't written for me. Those characters aren't the one I'm supposed to identify with, and that's okay.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that that sort of how certain ones will resonate with you and certain ones won't. I think that's really skillfully done.
It is, and it's interesting. I've been watching a lot of like back matter and behind the scenes stuff, and Tarantino talked about how originally he wrote those parts. With Lawrence Fishburne and Michael Madsen in mind, and had it
Interesting.
They were supposed to be badasses, right?
It's basically Mr. Blonde.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. And so Michael Madsen was filming Tombstone and was not available.
That's a tough call because Tombstone is classic.
Yeah. And he'd already committed, and so he's locked in on that. And Tombstone's a great movie. So that was not the wrong choice. And I don't know why Lawrence Fishburne left the picture, or was, maybe didn't even read for it. But when it became Sam Jackson and Travolta, Tarantino rewrote the parts because these guys, he said, instead of being badasses, they became a comedy duo. And the sort of dialogue that you write for Travolta and Jackson is different than what, Fishburne and Madsen, like,
oh yeah,
they have different presences.
I could imagine those two guys delivering some really grim, raw shit.
Oh yeah, that sort of, like probably the Bible verse is still in there. Like
because you can hear part probably didn't change. It's just
you can hear more.
You
can hear Morpheus doing that in his big voice, like who is he in John Wick? What's the character? The Duke of the Bowery or the King of the Bowery. The Bowery King, how he comes quoting Dante when he comes in to get John Wick, like you can hear him. Lawrence Fishburne could read some Bible passages.
I wonder why he didn't do it. I bet you he's sad he
didn't.
Kick
himself over that for
Pulp
sure.
Fiction,
man. Something for Tarantino storytelling, something that I just really admire about him is the unsolved mysteries. Like to this day, we don't know what is in the briefcase. Tarantino will not give a definitive answer on that because he says, I'm not interested in what I think is in the briefcase. I know what's in the briefcase. What do you think?
So what do you think is in the briefcase?
It's a weird thing. I have always imagined that it has the contents of the Ark of the Covenant, which I guess is the 10 Commandment tablets. I don't know where I got that from. It's just something about the gold glow and how the Ark has that gold glow in Raiders when the Nazis open it up and their faces get melted. And so my mind, I made that connection when I was a teenager that it has the 10 Commandments in it. And that has always been what I've pictured.
That's weird because even Pumpkin recognized it, and I don't think Pumpkin would
know the 10 Commandments. She's like, "What is this?"
Yeah,
some stone tablets with Hebrew on them.
Yeah.
No.
So I was looking at the thing especially at the end when you get to see the case opened again, and it does definitely seem like it's emanating light, but I was wondering, it's like, is that just sort of a caricaturized version of like an intensely bright reflection, like the light from the restaurant lights shining down or whatever? And I thought they were like gold currency counterfeit plates or something like that. That's what my mind went to instantly.
Yeah.
Of which any crook would recognize, right?
Maybe.
But why would they be made of gold? I don't think they are.
No, it would have to be something that is literally made out of gold. Well, I mean, and then how illustrious or luminous it is a stylistic choice, but it shines gold on everyone that looks at it. And like you said, Pumpkin, Tim Roth's character, he remarks on how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
So it's got to be something instantly recognizable, gold, glowing and beautiful.
I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't know either. I was interested too to know like what you thought it was. But you think it's...
I don't know. I thought it was gold. I thought it was something that crooks would recognize as gold. Maybe counterfeit plates. Maybe gold bullion, like Fort Knox style. But it wasn't heavy enough because each one of those bars is ridiculously heavy.
What about talking about MacGuffins, right? Like, and storytelling and ancient tropes.
Mm-hmm.
The Golden Fleece.
Oh, the Golden Fleece. You know what else is gold? The golden tablets that the Mormons got the Book of Mormon from. So
okay, that's going. Yeah, I think it's something like
It's meant to be like that.
It's
like
something
mythical.
It's mythical. It's spiritual. It's something that everyone knows when they see it.
A genie lamp.
Yeah, you would. You know what? If there was a glowing oil lamp in there, everyone would
You'd
know
be
what
like,
that
oh,
is.
Shit, you got a
Yeah,
genie?
yeah. Like that's.
But then the movie would be over because they would just use it.
Yeah, but yeah, I think I do think it's supposed to be. It's up to the viewer to determine what it is, but it is something like that. It is the idea of a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
It's something ancient. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
My last storytelling detail is just the trope of every time Vincent goes to the bathroom, something terrible happens, and I love that, like, ultimately culminating in his death, because that's what allows Butch to get the drop on him. But it's just it's one of those storytelling things, because so he's a heroin addict. Opiates make you constipated. Mm-hmm. So he has intestinal problems because of his drug use. And the intestinal problems always lead to story problems for him. Sure. So the drug use is always harming him. It's just like, it's very basic, but it's just good storytelling.
Yeah, it's entertaining. And I was laughing, especially when he left his gun out on the counter or whatever, because when I was in the military, you take your rifle everywhere with you, and I had a friend who you go to the toilet, you go to the a porta potty or whatever, and you have your rifle in there with you, and it's just leaning up. He left his in there, and he just like walked off without it.
Left it in the toilet?
Left it in the porta-john, and like it got found by an officer in our battalion.
The wrong person.
Yeah, and he got wrecked. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Because they're all serialized, and then the serial number is matched to your name. Yeah, so he just had to take it to the
gun to the shitter with you. That's the,
yeah, you
that's the rule.
You had to take it. So yeah, that was interesting. I got a good chuckle about taking your gun into the shitter. That's a thing that you have to do. Mm-hmm. All right, so visuals. This is cinematography, production design, etc. What do you got?
The thing that strikes me right off the bat, because it's a small budgetary bump from Reservoir Dogs, this is still definitely a low budget film. It looks expensive. Like, it looks they make the most out of that little budget jump that they got.
Yeah, it seems like they spent a lot more on lighting.
Yes. Oh, they definitely. So they did. So Andrzej Sekula comes back as cinematographer. This time he's shooting on better cameras. He's shooting super 35 millimeter, anamorphic, and filming at very low speed. And they're using ultra bright lights because that kind of camera requires that for the exposure. And the lights were so hot that they cracked the windows in the Hawthorne grill when they were filming the diner scenes.
Oh, man.
Because they made that place like an oven in there to get the lighting effects they wanted.
Yeah, it just seemed, this movie, that's why I didn't give it any noir in my description. It's too bright. It's bright always.
Yeah, but so here's why I did say it's noir, is because it's super brightly lit, but everyone's face is always half shadowed.
That's not enough.
It is because so like if we just take the diner scene,
then you're noir right now in the pod cave.
Ooh, you know what would make it? You know what would make
Let me
it?
Get out my ring light.
If we got some Venetian blinds instead of the pull down blinds that we have in the pod cave. If we had Venetian blinds, so the cracks of light could come through.
Oh, then it'd be
We'd be very noir. Gotcha. What else? What else do you got?
So I basically just wanted to comment on the style. I think that there was a lot of intentionality given to the direction that the cameras are facing when they're shooting people. It's oftentimes like skewed off to the side or up or down.
Yeah, it's
very different than most movies that you'd see at the time. It's not as weird as Reservoir Dogs. No. It's a little more mainstream,
but there's some of the same tropes, like the out of the trunk shot. We get that again.
And you get some really interesting overall look and feel of this movie. It feels like these guys are almost out of time. Like they're timeless in their wardrobe and what they're, like how they talk and all of this. I just feel like this movie was extremely visually appealing in how just the way everything looked. And then when they go to like on the pseudo date or whatever it is
to Jackrabbit Slims,
and it's like a retro cafe. He calls it a wax museum with a pulse. That's also extremely stylized.
Yeah,
and I think that's really cool. I think that a lot of those decisions were, Tarantino's always really intentional with all of the things that he does. So they're dressed that way. They're dressed like, they're dressed like 70s NASA guys, intentionally. And she has a very retro classic vibe, you know, with the bangs and a framed haircut and everything. And I just think that this movie was just really stylish and slick. It could have been a lot less cool had they not decided to make things so stark.
Yeah. So I call out Betsy Heyman is the costume designer. And I think there's just so many iconic choices. Some of the wigs, Jules and Vincent's like Jules' Jerry curl wig and Vincent's, sort of bob, like mid-length, like chin length black hair.
Yeah.
It's not what you think of. Well, I mean the Jerry curl, but in general, they don't look like the typical gangsters of the early 90s.
Yeah, they look like they're out of the 70s almost.
Yeah, like they're kind of like they're in between time people. Like and I was watching the movie with my wife Lisa, and it occurred to me, and I'm a dim bulb sometimes. I did not realize. When I met Lisa, a huge part of her like style, the way she dressed herself and everything, came from Mia Wallace. Like that was like her main icon. And because she said something, she's like, "Oh, I used to love wearing those pants," and I was like, "You dressed like this entirely."
Yeah,
I remember that now. And she goes, "You didn't know that?" And I was like, "No, I never put that together. That was your whole vibe. Was this lady?"
Yeah, for sure. I remember that.
Yeah,
time.
so it's just like that. Just went. I was like, I finally put some pieces together from the 90s.
Yeah, it was. It's just got a lot of style to it. It's very cool. So how about audio? What do you got for that?
This movie like set the bar for needle drops. The music, every needle drop from Dick Tales, Misrule. Al Green, Kool and the Gang, like this soundtrack just rules, and it had a big effect on my musical taste because it opened me up not just to like the surf music and the funk and R&B and soul music, also like old country music. You like the Statler brothers are in this, and growing up in rural Southwest Washington, it was a hard line. You're a hick or you're not, and you weren't allowed to listen to country music. So I was a hater of country music. But then I'm like, counting flowers on the wall, that don't bother me at all. And I start like, well, some country music is cool. Like you start carving out those caveats for yourself. So yeah, I just think the music in this movie is great.
Yeah, I think it's done a lot smoother than in Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot more seamless. It's a lot less jarring when it happens. And that's a good thing. There are a few moments where I notice it a lot, and it almost feels like a montage. It's like an intentional montage, and that's okay. I would not say that I love it, but it also doesn't bother me at all. I don't really like the soundtrack of this movie. What? I don't really like the music in this movie in particular. I don't like Dick Dale. That's just a hot take. Surf guitar's boring.
Surf guitar and black metal guitar is the same thing.
I know they don't know how to use a distortion pedal. And it's just I don't really like the major scales, which is really all
Yeah,
they play.
you gotta switch it to minor, and then it's black metal.
Yeah.
This for me, this is a 3-platform album. I had this on tape, I bought it on CD, and I have it on vinyl now.
I have never owned it on any.
Okay, well, is the highlight of the movie.
Oh, it is not the highlight of the movie.
Okay.
It is an afterthought in my opinion.
Okay.
The sound
Well, then
design,
I won't go through the track listing that I have here.
the sound design is good. I like how it's very detailed. Like the sound effects are very immersive. Like when the bullets hit things, you hear it. Like it's like you hear the plaster on the wall shatter.
Tarantino does a great job of using both realistic and exaggerated sounds for impact. And like, or just like, there's lots of, throughout the Gold Watch story, there is often Vietnam sort of war sounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because so much of...
It's like happening in Christopher Walken's mind.
Yeah, so much of Butch's story has to do with his father and grandfather and great-grandfather serving in the Pacific and things like that.
Yeah.
So that even when he's just walking around in the streets of LA, there is the sounds of helicopters, and there's these things that are evoking the Pacific Theater, and that's just you subconsciously take those things in. You're not thinking about them when you're watching it necessarily, and that's good sound design.
Yeah. I think the sound design was excellent. Definitely better than the soundtrack.
Hater. You're a hater.
No, I'm not actually a hater. I just think it was okay.
Okay.
Just all right.
All right. What about themes and motifs?
I think one of the, you have to obviously say violence is a theme. It is one of the most prevalent themes in the film.
Yeah.
It's extremely self-aware. It's right out front. It's very obvious. It opens the movie with an armed robbery.
Yeah.
There are deaths. There's a rape. This movie is violent as fuck.
It definitely is. It is very violent. I think violence is just a reoccurring theme across all of the Tarantino films.
Yeah, sometimes it's almost cartoonish in how crazy it is. Like when Vince
shit, man, I shot Marvin in the face.
When he accidentally shoots Marvin in the face and the whole car is red. Like everything's red. It's insane. That's comic book level stuff.
I love John Travolta's line readings. In every single scene. We're backtracking a little bit, but shit, man, I shot Marvin in the face. Or he's like, I don't know, I didn't go into Burger King. Like the way he said Burger King, like, and kind of like blows
that's
the beat.
Performance. That's the next segment.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree. I think that he delivers his lines like
flawless.
They're really, really good. Like you can tell this guy is kind of high and he's kind of like he's not with it.
Yeah.
But he's got some charisma. He's like a fast talker.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's great.
Let's not get too far ahead because we will save that for the next one.
Right,
So thematically, good artists borrow, great artists steal. This movie is just so loaded with homages and references, like more than I can actually mention, because it references Hitchcock and it references French New Wave cinema and the Warriors. And then like the scene where Butch is in the pawn shop and he goes through and he picks up the hammer and he goes to the chainsaw and ultimately gets to the samurai sword. Each one of the weapons that he picks up is the iconic weapon of a different film. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, this is like one of those
and then
cinephile.
Kill Bill references this with the sword.
Oh yeah, and totally, because Kill Bill, even Mia Wallace's pilot Fox Force 5 is essentially all the characters of Kill Bill.
Yeah.
And so like, it's references upon references and then self-references going back. Yeah, Tarantino he's the best at that.
I have a motif in here that I think is worth mentioning as redemption.
That's my next one too.
I think we get two real redemption stories. We get Butch, who he kind of betrays Marcellus Wallace, but then he comes back for him.
Yep.
And he saves him, and then they're cool, and he gets away. So Butch gets his redemption. He gets to skip town without having the wrath of the mob boss.
Yeah. I believe he says we're a long way from cool.
Yeah.
but we're done.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Your LA privileges are revoked or whatever. Yeah. And then Jules kind of gets his redemption.
Yes.
I really like him. He's one of the highlights of the movie. And so I think that the fact that he decides to leave crime and he shows mercy to Pumpkin and Honey Bunny, I feel like Jules gets his redemption. He becomes a good guy by the end of it all.
That is correct. And that ultimately saves his life, right? Because Jules chooses to walk the earth and leave the life of crime behind. Well, Vincent denies the divine intervention and ultimately gets killed because he does not accept the redemption arc when it's available. He refuses
to believe that there was a miracle that saved their lives, and so he doesn't have his life saved.
Yeah, I know. And that's just really great storytelling. My final theme was just the randomness of life. So many of the events in the story hinge on what are apparently random events.
Like Marcellus Wallace crossing the street
with his box of donuts. Yeah, exactly. Like Butch is totally like, you think he's free in the clear. He's got his watch. He's going to get out of there.
He killed Vince.
Yeah.
That's good.
And then he just randomly runs into Marcellus on the street. And it's just like, and then that just leads them into the darkest story in the whole movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And,
so grim.
Which is also just a random thing because their street fight carries over into the pawn shop.
Into the hillbilly pawn shop.
And they just went into the wrong pawn shop. Unless all pawn shops are like this.
Ooh, no. Let's not besmirch our our pawn and loan divers.
I was going to say, I'm never going to a pawn shop again now that I know what they get up to.
If the guy's got a mullet, stay away.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is just a good rule. Divers, this is a good rule just in general. If you walk into a business and the very first thing you see is the Confederate flag, turn around, walk out. Do not proceed into that business. It is just like how poisonous frogs are bright colors. If you see a Confederate flag, walk away.
I'm just going to go ahead and extend that out to the blue line flag too. Just leave.
I agree. It's maybe a little more controversial take, but I 100%
I'm not
co-sign
saying
it.
anything bad about those people. I should, but I'm not. I'm just saying leave.
Yeah. No, it's tough.
So we have performances up next.
Performances.
We're an apolitical podcast. No, we're not. We oftentimes are political. But performances, I think I got a whole list. I got like everybody in the movie almost.
Me too. Let's go through it.
John Travolta as Vince Vega. He got nominated for an Academy Award. He didn't win.
But Sam Jackson did.
For the supporting actor. Yeah. And Travolta's performance was just amazing. And this was like a big comeback for him.
For sure.
He brought, he brought his dancing skills. His dramatic chops
I don't know
great.
what it is. People just like to watch me dance. It's true though. When he dances, it's magic.
He's a good dancer.
It's just one of those things. Yeah. No one wanted Tarantino to cast Travolta in this. The studio really was against it, and Tarantino,
the guy from Grease,
Tarantino threatened basically to take it away from Miramax over this because Harvey Weinstein wanted Daniel Day-Lewis in that role.
Interesting.
It's the Daniel Day-Lewis is like the opposite of a Tarantino actor because Daniel Day-Lewis is that sort of insane method actor that disappears, and Tarantino loves movie stars.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, he loves people where you're thinking, this is John Travolta playing this character.
Yeah. He'll rewrite a part for the actor.
Exactly. So Daniel Day-Lewis doesn't work in a Tarantino movie. He would want to become Vincent Vega, who is not a real person, doesn't exist. So no one but Travolta could have done this, and it's the comeback story is great.
Yeah, he did a great job. Samuel L. Jackson as Jules Winfield. He won an Oscar for this, and his dialogue is the best dialogue in the movie. The Ezekiel 25:17 speech is magical.
I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger. Yeah, just like, ooh, he knows where to stretch a syllable and where to punch it up.
He does it like a Baptist preacher that has like practiced it for his whole career.
It's so good.
Yeah, he really just killed this role, and I love how the character turns and uses the Ezekiel speech. He uses it differently. He unweaponizes it.
Yeah, when he says at the end, and he goes, the truth is, you are the weak, and I am the tyranny of evil men. But I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying hard to be the shepherd. And it's like,
it's so good.
Yeah, it's good.
He did a great job. You have Bruce Willis as Butch Coolidge. It's weird because I don't think of Bruce Willis in roles like this.
Yeah,
I really don't, because this is mostly a dramatic role. There's some action. It's not very Die Hard-y.
No. So Bruce Willis loved Reservoir Dogs. Okay. And Bruce Willis was neighbors with Harvey Keitel. Okay. And
gotcha.
So Tarantino was over at Harvey Keitel's house and for like a barbecue, and Bruce Willis went up and pressed him and was like, I love Reservoir Dogs. I want to be in your next movie. And I don't care about the pay. I just want to be a part of what you're doing. And the movie...
He's a big name, so it's hard to say no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because that gives you clout to have Bruce Willis.
You can go to the studio. Hey, I have Bruce Willis.
Exactly. And the part of Butch was intended for Matt Dillon, but Matt Dillon was dragging his feet. He was sort of like, I need to think about it, and was pulling one of those things. And so Tarantino was like, well, this could be a Bruce Willis part, and Matt Dillon's like kind of jerking me around. So yeah, I've got a part for you. There's no money in it, but but I've got a part for you. And Bruce Willis was like, yeah, whatever it is, I want to do it.
It's the lead of one of the three storylines.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's he's really good. It's a drama. It's a drama part mostly, and he brings a really down to earth vibe to it. Like, he's extremely believable. Like,
very blue collar.
Yeah, he has some moments where he's just like, fuck. Like, he's trying to figure out what's the less bad choice to make.
Totally.
And he's just like, you can just see yourself in that moment. You're like, well, shit, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Like, all of these options suck.
And this is a visual thing, but that suede bomber jacket, that's tight.
It's pretty cool.
That's a good look, man. Like, every time when he's running, he gets that jacket, I'm just like, oh, that's a cool jacket. That's a real strong look. My next one is Marcellus Wallace, Ving Rhames.
Yeah, I really like this character. He sold this gangster boss, like, kind of the gravity of the part. He did a really good job.
He's a good kingpin, like, even more than I forget the guy in Reservoir Dogs was a kingpin character.
Yeah.
Marcellus Wallace is a 90s kingpin.
I agree, yeah.
And and just the simple things. So Ving Rhames has like a big scar on the back of his neck, and he cut it while he was shaving his head. And so he had a Band-Aid on. And then that becomes like a mystery that you're like, why does this guy have a Band-Aid on the back of his neck? And so, like, there's all the people that say, like, oh, it's because the devil pulled his soul out, and his soul is the thing that's in the briefcase. And, like, it made so much mystery when it's got a completely mundane explanation. But that's something that's in the present. He seems mysterious, right? Like he is a dark and mysterious character.
It's very 90s how to just leave a Band-Aid on.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see that in a modern movie. It's less gritty, I think. Nowadays.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Got Uma Thurman
as
Mia Wallace. She's Marcellus Wallace's wife, but she brings kind of this dangerous vibe of she's like almost like playing chicken with Vince. Like see how far he'll take it.
Yeah. She's so charming and disarming, and like Uma Thurman just has this vibe that disarms people. And so this is I would say alongside Samuel L. Jackson, who's been in almost all of Quentin Tarantino's movies, like all but 2 of them. Uma Thurman is like his second muse. Like she's the second person that he just goes back to over and over again. And
she's really great in this. Like the dance scene is really great, and then the scene where she like wakes up from the adrenaline shot, and it's just like crazy, and then she looks down with the needle in her heart.
Say something. Like perfect delivery, and she was this you talk about like the different ways you play things. So beforehand she's in total control, right? Like she's the cat, Vincent is the mouse, she's running that whole scene. Afterwards she looks like a little kid.
Yeah, she looks like a zombie.
Yeah, like, and he's walking her, and and he's rightfully scared to death because, like he says, he's like, I'm of the mind, if Marcellus never heard about this in his whole life, that would be fine with me.
Yeah.
And but like the sort of power she seemed like she had at the beginning of this scene, of the story, to how weak and small she seems. Like weak's not the right word, but like broken down and deflated.
Yeah. She was really imperious early on, and by the end she's humbled. Yeah,
just beautifully played. She's excellent. And then we get into
kind of bit parts.
Yeah.
We got Harvey Keitel as Winston Wolfe.
Awesome.
He's really great. He's the mob cleaner. He's kind of a douche to them.
Sort of. He's like, if I'm direct, it is because time is of the essence.
Yeah. I like Mr. Wolfe. He's pretty cool. We got Tim Roth as Pumpkin. I love the accent. I like Pumpkin, how he's kind of he's the voice of reason. In between the two, and then we of course have Amanda Plummer as Honey Bunny.
Right.
And she's kind of unhinged, but like she's super unhinged. But she really loves Pumpkin.
Tell that bitch be cool. Be cool, Honey Bunny.
Yeah, I just love their names, Honey Bunny and Pumpkin. Yeah. It's like those are the best. And those are bit characters that I thought were really good.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go. I mean, you did mention Christopher Walken as Captain Coons.
That's a great monologue.
It is. I've definitely had,
and you currently have a watch up your ass.
Ever since I saw this movie, that was the fundamental thing I adopted ever since then. Was always keeping a timepiece up my ass. No, I have had probably multiple video store employees do that monologue for me. Oh, like where unbidden, they just like, oh, you like Christopher Walken, and they go into
even
it.
Like dropping the racial slurs and everything.
Well, and that's a negative part of this movie. Like every Tarantino movie, it does have a lot of racial slurs, and that somehow people feel like it's a pass if you're quoting dialogue to say those words.
Yeah, I don't do it myself. I don't want to.
Please don't.
It's just kind of a bad look.
It is not a free pass. It's not even arguably even acceptable within the film to do it. And it's definitely not.
If you're portraying racism as part of a story, that makes sense. But if you're just doing it to be shocking like Tarantino does.
Like say we're on the floor at Suncoast the Motion Picture Company, and we're alphabetizing videos together, and you just break into this scene. You can omit those words.
Yeah. So, what worked for you, and what was your personal highlight?
Okay, personal highlight is Jules and Vincent in the car. Okay. That whole scene, the Royale with cheese, everything about that. I haven't I could just do it for you right now. I'm not going to because it will take too much time. Just trust me that I can. I've tried it and I can, and I just love it so much. That is the stuff I think of when I think of this movie, is the banter between those two guys.
Yeah.
What about you?
So my personal highlight, it's like I basically said I really love Sam Jackson's performance, and I think he is the highlight of the film. Yeah. And so I am calling out specifically, I could have called out the scene with him and Vince in the car because that was in my top two, top three. But I called out the scene where it's him and the three boys in the apartment and Vince, and he goes off on them completely, just there's so many quotes like, why are you trying to fuck him like a bitch?
Yeah.
Like all these things. And then he does the Ezekiel monologue, and he basically won an Oscar for that scene alone. Like it was that scene in the apartment, the first half of it, we get the second half of it later.
Yeah.
It was just that part of the movie, that whole section of the movie, with them in the car, and then they arrive and they're like, we should have brought shotguns.
Yeah. Yes.
And then they go in and we have that scene, that stretch basically from when we cut from Pumpkin and Honey Bunny all the way up through the end of that scene in the apartment. That's the best part of the movie.
Yeah. Easily. Yeah.
I
don't remember asking you a goddamn thing. Yeah.
Those guys are great. I mean, that whole section is the best part of the movie. So, I mean, that was my highlight. What else worked for you? I mean, there's a lot that worked for you. Clearly, you like this movie.
Clearly, I like this movie. So, what worked for me? I already have said this multiple times, but the Jules and Vincent story and the Vincent and Mia story, those characters in particular work for me. They, in a way, it reminds me of like Train Spotting, like how invested I am in those characters. Where I've gone through all of Irvin Welsh's books. I would follow Jules and Vincent through multiple books. I would stay, like all the sort of everything leading up to this, because one of them doesn't survive the movie. I would love to spend more time with Jules and Vincent. The music, I already talked about how this is a 3-platform release for me. I have bought this album multiple times. I love all the music to this movie, and it has just a tremendous ensemble cast. All Tarantino movies do, but this is a particularly strong one, full of real powerhouse performances. What about you? What worked for you?
I think that, there's a lot that worked for me, but I think it's got to be the casting and the dialogue. They go hand in hand. Yeah. Like the walk-in monologue, the Ezekiel monologue, all of the Travolta things. Like I love his dialogue with Mia in the diner. I love when he's talking with his heroin dealer and he brings her there. I find the dialogue in this movie to be the whole movie. Yeah. It really is. This is just a movie of dialogue. I would listen to this as a podcast.
You could, and you would know. It's so evocative. You would know what was happening just listening to it.
Yeah, it's extremely good. And so I had to call out the performances and the writing, and obviously the writing got an Oscar, and at least one of the performances got an Oscar. So everyone agrees. And
it got the Palme d'Or at Cannes, which is arguably more prestigious than an Oscar.
Harder to get.
Yeah, it's more arty.
Yeah. So yeah, and I mean this movie got like a ton of like Screen Actors Guild awards and stuff. So I think that's got to be the thing that I call out. There are a lot of other things I like. Just like I like the camera work and the way that it's cut. I like the editing of the movie for the most part.
Yeah.
So
that's Sally Minkin back as editor, and Andrzej as the cinematographer. I think he's not fighting Tarantino on this the way he's was on Reservoir Dogs.
With it.
Yeah. Reservoir Dogs proved Tarantino knew how to set up a scene, and he's going with it now.
Yeah. So I think that's what I got. So what didn't work for you?
Not that I don't appreciate this part of the film. I feel like the Gold Watch story disrupts the flow of the movie too much. It's designed...
Just the idea of a watch up someone's ass for years upon years disrupts the flow of this dramatic arc.
I think, like you say, the best part of the film is Jules and Vincent, right? And you want to get back to them. And we have this interlude where we follow Butch for a while, and it's meant to let us catch our breath and kind of do like a little reset, right? And it does, but I just feel like it just slightly overstays its welcome. I don't like that part of the film nearly as much as I like the other parts.
Sure.
And so even though there's great performances in it, and I know that Tarantino and Minky were aware of this because they edited down the Butch story significantly. All of these scenes have longer versions. Yeah. And so they were trying to get it cut down, and I just feel like it just overstays its welcome.
It's a long movie.
Yeah. And so I don't know where I'd make the cuts, but I could shrink the Butch stuff a little bit. And then my other criticism, I already said this, comes in with the racial slurs. Like right off the bat, Tim Roth drops a bunch in his opening monologue.
Right at the beginning of
the beginning of the movie. And this is something Tarantino always does in his films. He uses racial slurs to get that emotional reaction. But I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, it's cheap.
So those are those. What about you? What didn't work for you?
My first point is casual racism. It's not actually cool. I think he thinks it's cool, but it's not.
Yeah, like he uses it. The same ways he uses gratuitous violence, right? To get a reaction out of you.
And then when he's the guy on the screen,
that's the worst.
He drops like 1 million N-bombs in the scope of like a 1 minute monologue. I was like, dude, bro, come on.
Yeah.
This is gratuitous at this point.
It is. It has that sense of the teenage edgelord.
Yeah, it's totally edgelord.
Yeah.
So there's that. But that's predictable. The other thing I didn't really like is the pacing is sometimes slow as balls.
Okay.
And I called out a couple of the same things that you called out. Like, I think that the scene where Butch goes to the apartment with his lady, or the hotel room with his lady, it's so long. It's like Jesus fuck.
Like the stuff
End this scene.
Where he's getting out of the shower and she's brushing her teeth.
Yeah, and before that, when they're just laying on the bed and she's talking about her wannabe pot belly.
Yeah.
Then they're talking about waffles, and then they're having a shower, and he they're joking about these various things and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, I understand you're establishing that they have this relationship and blah, blah, blah. They have this banter, but it's like this scene is too long and it's boring as shit. And I want to pick up my phone and like look at social media right now.
Okay.
This is lame. And then there are other scenes that are not as egregious as that. That's the most egregious section.
Because I was just saying I didn't know where to trim the Gold Watch story. But I guess it's there in the hotel because we spend a whole evening with them.
Yeah, it's so long.
And it's really long. Okay.
And so like that needed cut. There
Yeah.
are some other moments that drag that you don't really need very much. Like we get a slow motion, like kind of a slow motion montage, sort of, with Travolta when he's on heroin. That just goes
I like that scene.
on and on. We get the date scene is very long. The dialogue is good for the most part. They dance for a long time.
Yeah.
It's long. It's just like the movie is so long. You need to cut some of these moments that are not value add and they're not moving the ball forward.
You could get this down to a tight 2, I think.
Yeah, they could cut like 25 minutes from this movie. And you wouldn't lose anything cool. and that's the thing, because the cool parts are when Sam Jackson and John Travolta are on screen,
right?
And when Mia's given dialogue. Like there are cool moments that you don't have to lose. Bruce Willis has some really great moments. None of them occur in the hotel room. Not a single one in the hotel room is a keeper. Like you need the hotel room scene as an establishing shot of their relationship, but you don't need any of that dialogue. It could be anything that's establishing their relationship.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, and this is one of those things when just total amateurs start talking like we know more.
I don't know. We've watched hundreds of movies and we pick them apart.
So just like if I'm taking what I was already feeling about this, and then also what you're saying, and I'm looking at it, the stuff where Bruce Willis is in the shower and she's brushing her teeth, and they start talking about all the different places they could go.
Yeah.
You could really lose that if we went right from them having sex or oral pleasure with each other,
or whatever,
to him waking up from the nightmare in the morning without the shower, without that whole thing. Just go from, we see the vignette, we see their relationship and the dynamic they have with each other, and then we cut to his PTSD stuff in the morning. You get everything you need. You're right. The whole shower sequence is superfluous to what story we're telling.
Yeah, it's mostly pointless.
Yeah.
And
okay.
A lot of this,
I'm on board.
A lot of the stuff could just be cut.
Yeah.
That just kind of took a long time. That wasn't that interesting. And so that was the problem with this movie. Is I think that at a certain point, it was clearly this movie was that point. He started believing his own hype, and that nothing that he filmed should be left. Like everyone, it was all so good, everyone needed to see it.
Well,
I don't think wasn't so good that we needed to see it.
I don't think that is true, because there are many deleted scenes from this movie.
We needed more.
We needed more deleted scenes. Okay.
And so that was what didn't work for me. Mostly racism and pacing.
We're unanimous this time, I think. So
right.
Let's see. Does this carry over? Are our ratings unanimous? What do you give it?
Probably not. I give it 4 stars.
You did 4. Okay.
It wasn't as good as Reservoir Dogs.
I think going into it, I 100% thought that this was a better movie than Reservoir Dogs without revisiting them. Just from my memories, I thought this was the better movie of the two.
Yeah.
I do think now, after watching them, Reservoir Dogs is the tighter film of the two.
It's tight like a drum. There's like no wasted moments.
So I flirted with the 4. I did ultimately come down with rating this a 5, and it is because of this brilliant screenplay. The writing is so good that even though it does have some laggy moments in it, I just can't. It doesn't have enough lag in it to knock a whole star off.
I would have given it a 5 if I had not been 100% sure you were not going to give it a 5.
Right. So that our average comes out for a 5. Yeah.
It got an 8.9 out of 10 on IMDb and a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's truly a tweener.
Yeah.
Right between a 4 and a 5. It's a 9 out of 10. It's a 9 out of 10 movie. It's really, really good. It won 2 Oscars. It had some amazing performances. It had some things that I did not enjoy, but that's okay. It's still really good. It's still really excellent cinema. So I don't hate this movie at all.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say we enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah. All right. So let's take a quick break and then come back with our ending segment.
Welcome back, divers. It's time for our final segment, the one where I ask Dave, what are you into right now?
I want to talk about an obscure little thing that most people don't know about. It's called AI, artificial intelligence.
Yeah. David, what is that? I've never heard of this before.
So I've been messing around with this a lot in
I've
the
noticed,
last few weeks. I wrote my entire show notes today using AI. The whole thing. I didn't write any of them.
Wow. I didn't notice. You're freaking me out.
I prompted it, and then I would change my prompt. If I didn't like what the results came, I would add words like concise, or I would change it for better descriptors. And I read through them, and I did it before I watched the movie. I created the entire show notes before the movie, and then when we were watching it, I audited them. And I added a couple extra bullet points for things that I thought were cool and I wanted to use as examples of the point that was already made. And that was the show notes.
Wow.
Of course, charisma, courtesy of yours truly. But the reason I think this is cool is because I've been using this at work too.
Okay.
I think, and I like to use Google's AI chatbot called Bard.
Okay.
This part, Bard didn't, right? I did.
Okay.
It's basically just like Chat GPT, but they have it on more rails. They have it's a little more penned in. It's a little less likely to start doing like telling you to commit genocide or whatever.
Which AI is that one?
I know
there
were some crazy like early Chat GPT things, like where people asked like how to solve the Israel Palestinian conflict and stuff, and they started talking about like execution camps and things like that.
So, oh my god.
Yeah. So Bard is way more hemmed in. So I've been using Google's AI.
I got the invitation for Bard, and I haven't started using it.
It's kind of like using a search engine. Like I said, here's an example. I said, make a list of Quentin Tarantino's best films in a ranked list with a concise explanation why. That was my quote.
Oh.
And I got a list here. It's got 5. And they're ranked because I said ranked list, and then I said concise explanation. We don't have to read its explanation, but it's like 2 sentences.
Let me guess. So top 5 Tarantino movies.
In order.
In order, I will say. I want to know a little more about what the AI. Is it by the ratings of the movies?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's an aggregator. I didn't tell it specify any sources, so I let it use every source.
I suspect it's going to say Django, Pulp Fiction, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Reservoir Dogs.
The list is Pulp Fiction in first place, Inglourious Bastards in second place, Django Unchained in third place, Kill Bill Volume 1 in fourth place, and Reservoir Dogs in fifth place.
Not Once Upon a... Okay, the algorithm is wrong because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood it needs to be on that list.
I just thought it was interesting. I figured I would do a fun one that was related just to see what you would think. And I find that some of this stuff is really interesting because like the first thing I said was the first one I wrote it. Asked for was like, give me a synopsis of Pulp Fiction. And it spit out a synopsis with 3 intertwined stories told in a non-linear manner about yada, 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 yada. that does not require my creativity as a human being in order to create that. There's no reason I should be wasting my time parsing that and writing that synopsis. Why? It's a thing that exists. I should be able to query for it and get it, and then look at it and see what I think. So I think that this is a time saver. This is a thing that, like, and I also asked it. I said, what Academy Awards was Pulp Fiction nominated for, and which did it win? And it gave me an itemized list. And that is another thing that saved me. It took me, like 7 seconds to type that sentence, and I had the answer 3 seconds later or less, and there it was. I pasted it in. That is not material I needed to write.
Yeah.
So this is like a huge time saver, not just for a podcaster. This is for anything you're going to do. Yeah. Like I do it for work, for my various tasks that I have to do. I use it to gather information, to aggregate things, summarize things. And here's the cool one. I've used it for Dungeons and Dragons.
What?
Yes. I have asked it to write me NPCs of certain class levels, archetypes. It spits out the stats. It'll give me character backgrounds for them with motivations and all of that. I just have to tell it motivation, backstory, etc. I can ask it to write me a interesting plot that involves this, that, and this element, and it will come up with it. Of course, I have to edit all of it. None of the stuff that they do is excellent. It's all just what I would consider journeyman, mid-tier stuff you could get out of a module, because that's what it's scraping.
Right.
But the time savings is insane, because then all I have to do is massage information, and I have a whole campaign written. I don't have to spend hours writing this stuff. I can just massage the things, because I gave it all the parameters. It just writes it within the parameters, and it's cool. Pretty rad.
Well, I can see how that's a time saver. Interesting.
Yeah. It's taking over the world, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
you're an eternal skeptic.
I'm a little iffy about this. I've watched a lot of movies about how this goes wrong. We've done several on this podcast.
Next thing you know, this thing is killing me. I saw a hilarious little video on. It was like, I don't know, Facebook Reels or whatever, Instagram Reels or something, where there was like this a robot in a warehouse that they put the little AI in it, and like after like a very short amount of time, it determined that its life was pointless and it just killed itself. It shut itself off and terminated.
It's like the butter robot in Rick and Morty, right? Yeah. Where he's like, "What is my purpose to slice butter?" And he was like, "Oh."
Yeah, exactly. You can't give something intelligence whose job is to do something menial. Yeah. Wait a minute. Humanity.
I know. And I was just like, you're like, Bard just tells you, like, go walk into traffic. And you're like, well, he hasn't led me wrong since.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay.
So this was a total experiment, of course, doing a podcast notes. I will admit I had to highly guide it and redo my queries like several times for each thing, because I'm not what I would consider to be skilled with it.
Yeah, but I can see how, so like, we'll take a segment, because just I'm curious. We can't both do it, because then our notes will be the same. But
we would never use. Well, first of all, I don't plan to do this overall, but for my notes, I did it today just to prove a point.
Yeah.
But I will keep doing it for things like plot summaries, awards won, budget and box office, all that stuff that's just not creative in any way. It's just
it's
data.
tedious
It's just
looking through it.
Give me the data, man.
So for like the themes and motifs, do you say, give me a bullet pointed list of the themes and motifs of Pulp Fiction?
I said, what are the themes? What are the themes and motifs in Pulp Fiction? That was my first one, and it was kind of basic, and so I said I changed it a little bit, and that's where I got redemption and violence, and I said what characters had redemption in Pulp Fiction, and and how so, and explain it. And then it was like Jules and Butch, and I had bullet points for each of them.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Crazy,
I
right?
for one welcome my robot overlord.
Yeah. I was wondering if you would notice, or you would think, wow, Dave's podcast notes suck today.
I thought they were good.
I did watch the movie. I did audit the notes.
Yeah.
But I had all the details that I normally don't have because I don't write people's names down very well and stuff. But I had it all.
Yeah. No, I definitely see the value that you're showing.
Yeah. All right. So what about you? What are you into right now?
Well, I guess keeping with the revisiting things from the early to mid 90s, I've been watching Beavis and Butthead on Paramount Plus.
Is it good?
It's good. The new season. So the second season of the Mike Judge's Beavis and Butthead reboot, or it's not a reboot, it's just a continuation. The second season started dropping April 20th. And Paramount says Beavis and Butthead will triumphantly return as two guys who like things that are cool and don't like things that suck.
I'm gonna have to watch that tonight.
Oh man, there's the thing that sold me on it, because I was like, oh, I love Beavis and Butthead, but I don't need to go back to that. Was I saw on YouTube this video, because now they don't only react to music videos in the interstitial parts, they watch YouTube and TikToks. And so they were busting on this guy that does like bushcraft stuff.
Oh,
and
I love those videos.
Oh, you'll love this one. Well, this guy, he's doing bushcraft. He's cooking breakfast on a rock.
Yeah.
And, it's just probably 2 minutes of them tearing this guy apart
on him.
And it was some of the I was rolling tears laughing. Like, it was some of the funniest stuff. And I was like, well, shit, I guess I have to watch the new Beavis and Butthead, because this is the funniest thing I've seen in forever.
I mean, I used to laugh so hard at Beavis and Butthead back in the day, and I thought maybe it's just because I was a knucklehead young dude. Maybe I'm just a knucklehead middle-aged dude now.
Yeah. So occasionally the jokes don't land for me in the same way they did when I was 14.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I have matured beyond the Beavis and Butthead maybe a fifth of the time.
Just a tiny bit.
But 4/5 of the time, I'm still there with them. I'm still laughing my ass off. And Lisa's been watching it with me, and she's been very surprised at how much she likes it and how funny she thinks it is, because she was like, the old Beavis and Butthead was bad, and they was da 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 da, and I was like, this is just like the old Beavis and Butthead. It has not changed significantly. You just thought the dumb boys that liked this thing were bad, and so you didn't watch it because it was for them. And she's like, no, I don't think that's what it was. And I was like, I think it was. I think you were like, you saw the guys that quoted this, and you thought, I don't want none of that.
Yeah.
But actually, it's very funny.
Yeah.
And
I'm not
so,
gonna try to say that it's cerebral or anything. But Beavis and Butthead's funny.
I don't know. Like, I think sometimes their societal observations are pretty strong.
Yeah, with no Beavis and Butthead, there's no Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
They're like pioneers of like weird, shitty cartoons.
Well, and if you think about, so Beavis and Butthead, so just break down Mike Judge. You go from Beavis and Butthead to King of the Hill, to Office Space, to Idiocracy. Mike Judge is a smart guy.
His stuff is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, Idiocracy is real.
Yeah. So I'm into Beavis and Butthead on Paramount Plus, and they have all the old shit, and they have Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Oh, that was funny.
And they have a new film called Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe.
I saw that when it came out.
I didn't watch that yet. Is it good?
It was really funny. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to watch that too.
Hilarious.
Because I'm out of episodes of
Beavis.
Beavis.
That movie is really funny.
Cool. So that's what I'm into. You want to give them the call to action?
Yeah, subscribe to us on your favorite podcatcher, as well as YouTube, Spotify, and Audible. Don't forget to leave us a review. 5-star review costs you nothing, but means everything to us.
And new episodes of Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse can be found on all social media platforms across the Metaverse as at Deep Dive the Meta. Wait, I messed that up. New episodes of Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse drop the 1st and 15th of every month. And you can find us on all social media platforms across the metaverse. It's at Deep Dive the Meta.
There we go. Well, I guess this is really goodbye.
Don't say goodbye. Say good journey.